What's up everyone, I'm Tim and this is my channel 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Today we're going to talk about 5 weight distribution tips on a motorcycle when it comes to packing for a long trip. Stick around. Okay, so I recently got home from a trip out to California and I was trying to get this video done while I was out there, but time just wasn't permitting it. It's funny though, while I was out there with my buddy Bob, he noticed he was having handling issues over 75 or 80 miles per hour, which was a big issue on the 40 freeway when we were passing tractor trailers. My gut reaction was that there was no issue with the motorcycle itself and that he had packed something in a less than efficient way. We were looking at how he had everything strapped down to his bike, and it was pretty clear fairly quickly what the issue was. His weight distribution was way off. This weight distribution thing, it's not always so obvious, and so I want to go over some tips for packing your motorcycle in a manner that will allow safe handling of your bike and it won't cause any potential accidents. Bob was lucky that the issue wasn't occurring in an emergency situation, because having to swerve or avoid an unexpected obstacle when the bike's getting all wobbly, well, that was a certain recipe for disaster. So to make this a little easier, I'll break this down into 5 tips for weight distribution on a motorcycle. And tip number 1 is knowing your limitations, or rather the limitations of your motorcycle. But something important to remember is that each container, side case, saddlebag, top case, tank bag, or anything else you put stuff in, that also has its own separate weight limit. You need to find out your bike's gross vehicle weight rating, or the GVWR. You can find this number on your manufacturer's website or your owner's manual. It's important not to exceed this number. Some of you guys commented on my video about what I pack for a long trip, how much my bike weighed, and I have never gone to a scale fully loaded. However, I know what my bike weighs fully loaded because, believe it or not, I put together this list here. As you can see at the top is the GVWR minus the weight of the bike, giving me my bike's max load at 467 pounds. I subtract myself body weight only. Then I can see my maximum weight for luggage and or a passenger and gear, which is roughly 300 pounds. Below that, you can see that my tank bag has a max capacity of 11 pounds, side case is 33 pounds, and the top case has a max of 11 pounds. All of this is non-negotiable to me, and I think that it's way more than enough anyways. I'll actually shoot for a pretty large gap between what I carry and the max because I like souvenirs. If we look further down this sheet, you can see I weighed all my riding gear and totaled it up. Also my camping equipment, cooking equipment, tools, spares and fluids, my filming equipment, personal items, clothing and hygiene products. I have an other category for my first aid kit, rain gear, jacket liner. Now this is an old list. I don't typically travel with a motorcycle cover and I just never took it off the list. A few other things have changed, but if anything, it would be the same amount of items and slightly less weight. I also made sure to weigh my cases and bolt-on accessories. I know I'm a little ridiculous, but this list makes me happy. So you can see with everything I'm carrying, I have enough wiggle room for about 150 pounds. And I'm pretty comfortable with this. Obviously this would change if I had a passenger, and other circumstances would change this too. But this tops out at a total of 852 pounds. Kind of surprising, right? If you haven't seen the video of what I pack, I'll link to it right here. Definitely looks like more than that, but I promise it's not. I put a lot of time and energy into shedding weight without compromising comfort, luxury, and convenience of having everything I could need for the way I like to travel. So the math real quick looks like this. The GVWR of 1,014 pounds, subtract 538 pounds for the weight of the bike wet. That gives me a 476 limit. I add everything on this sheet, which including myself is 314 pounds. And that is under the limit, and I can find the total of the bike by adding the 314 with the 538, and that gives me 852 pounds. Remember though, the individual cases have their own limit, and that is why I like to have a breakdown of what everything weighs. That way I can pick and choose what goes in what case and keep everything within its own limit. Remember that exceeding those limits will potentially affect your braking, handling, suspension, tires, wheels, and so just be aware of that. Okay, tip number 2 is keep it even. Chances are if you're packing for a long trip, you're using some type of saddlebag setup. Side note, if you're using soft saddlebags, make sure to get some type of bracket or saddlebag stay to keep the soft bags from bouncing around near the tire. One advantage to soft bags is if you take them off at night to go into a hotel or whatever, is that this actually makes balancing the 2 sides really easy. Just by holding one in each hand, you can get a pretty good idea of how balanced they are. They should weigh about the same. For hard bags like mine that are mounted to the bike, you might want to consider fitted bag liners. That can help with this, and they're really useful for a lot of other reasons too. The same rule applies for front and back weight. In fact, this is where Bob ran into issues. All his weight was on the back of the bike. A tank bag or something strapped to the front of the bike would have helped, But he was able to remedy this situation by turning his duffel bag from being the long way front to back 90 degrees to being side to side on the bike. This allowed him to put all the weight between the axles at least, which helped. The idea is to maintain the bike's weight distribution in proportion to what it was with no luggage. In other words, if you add 10 pounds to the left, add it to the right. Or split it up and do 5 and 5 on each side. If you add 20 pounds to the back, you should try to add about that to the front. This will have the best possible effect, or I should say the least possible adverse effect on handling. This should be easy with the side-to-side balance, but it gets a little tricky with the front to back, so it's best to keep things closer to the center of the bike and avoid putting heavy objects too far back on the motorcycle. In other words, don't strap your tools to the back of your sissy bar. I try to max out the weight limit on my tank bag, putting some heavier items in there and just making sure to utilize all of its carrying capabilities. This helps me offset weight from the rear. Tank bags are a great way to bring a little balance to the front and rear. Just avoid putting things in the front where they'll cut off air to the engine or radiator, and strapping things to the forks that could cause handling issues and steering issues, so be careful with that. It's not always the case though. Tip number 3 is keep it low. Avoid packing heavy gear high on your motorcycle, as this will change the center of gravity. This is important and can have a very noticeable effect on handling. I keep my tool roll at the bottom and as far forward as I can get it in my side case. This helps keep the balance on the bike from being altered in a less than friendly way. This goes double if you're strapping things to the motorcycle. Heavy items up high will find their way lower on the bike over time. This will throw off the left to right balance, and with a little vibration to help, they could eventually escape even the tightest restraints and they'll be bouncing down the road in no time. That is if they don't cause an accident on the way down. So packing low and close to your motorcycle's center will make things more stable in slow speed situations like parking lots and stop and go traffic. It can make sudden stops more manageable and makes the whole ride a lot more enjoyable. And it won't feel like a circus act just to keep the bike up. Something to keep in mind is that the center of gravity will typically be somewhere near the top of the transmission, so you want all your weight to be as close to that as possible. And tip number 4 is to keep it light. Like I said earlier, you want to stay away from the maximum weight capacity and definitely don't exceed it. When you carry a heavier than normal load on your motorcycle, you will cause added wear and tear to the suspension, tires, brakes, final drive, and it will negatively affect slowing down, cornering, and acceleration. You also want to make sure your tires are inflated properly, and you might need to adjust your suspension to be a little stiffer. Tires have a maximum load capacity and pressure marked on the sidewall. When a tire is underinflated, it can reduce the load capacity, so make sure to keep an eye on tire pressure and keep it set right. Don't forget to check it on a cold tire, so first thing in the morning before you start riding, or else you won't get an accurate reading. Remember, less is sometimes more on a motorcycle. This is another good reason for having a list of each item and its weight, because this will help you prioritize things. Maybe your set of golf clubs is an easy way to shed about 35 pounds from the back of your bike. So maybe you should leave those at home to make room for a rain suit. And maybe this wrench weighs 1 pound, but you need it to fix the bike, so trade it for that extra pair of shoes you probably won't need. If you are new to traveling on a motorcycle, you're almost guaranteed to take too much stuff. It seems to be kind of a rite of passage. I know I did it, and a lot of guys I have talked to have done it. If you are traveling in the United States, there's shipping centers and post offices everywhere. After about a week on the road, it should be pretty easy to determine what you actually need, and you can always ship the rest home. I'll actually do this every couple of weeks because I always seem to add weight as I go with souvenirs and t-shirts from Sturgis and all kinds of things like that. So I just ship those home, or if I really like the shirt, I'll wear it on the trip and I'll send something else home. You get the idea. All right, the 5th and final tip is keep it tight. You want to avoid letting things move around, as that can throw off your balance and can make the bike handle in an unpredictable manner. This goes for what's inside your case as much as what you have strapped to the bike. I'm going to be doing a video soon about strapping bags to your motorcycle and strap options, but the general guideline is that no matter what you use to strap something to the bike, it better be tight. It shouldn't move at all. If it moves when you pull on it, that's exactly what it's going to do when you start riding. This goes for any direction too. Think accelerating, braking, and crosswinds from both directions. It shouldn't move in any direction. Take all precautions to make sure that nothing moves around. Pack your cases tight and fill in the open spaces with socks or rags or a t-shirt or whatever. Think about any possibility and expect that. Is your load properly prepared for any circumstance? Make sure to always have extra straps with you too, just in case. Also, be sure to check your load at every stop. And so that's it. Those are 5 tips for weight distribution when packing a motorcycle. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to see more videos like this about motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.